Hello, 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 and welcome in to Bear With Us by Bear Claw Media. I am Chris Bolin, and I am joined, I want to say as always, but it feels like it's been a hot minute since we've done one of these, Ben. But without further ado, Ben, buddy, how you doing?
Good, buddy. It's yeah, we've been a little bit wires crossed, a little bit schedules crossed, a little bit just like yeah, life is busy right now. It's hard when we got our UNC hats on, our dad hats on, our UNC hats on, other hats on, like, we got life going. But we ended the season on a high note. We got a senior day win. Like, yeah, I mean, what more can we ask for the football season? Also, gotta say, got to 4. I was right.
No, 100%. Like, I think 24-13 win over Portland State on senior day. Ugly game. Ultimately doesn't matter. It's a win is a win. Like, great to see them send the seniors off. 4 wins, most wins in 9 years for this program, which just oof. Like, really tells you the state of things. But the state of things seem to be trending upward. And then also the first Division I home win of the Ed Lamb era. So got the win earlier this year at home against Shadron, but this is the first win against a Division I opponent at home, which has been very elusive over 3 years. When there were Portland State very easily could have been a win 2 years ago, Abilene last year. There were a handful of them that it could have happened, but finally kind of got over that proverbial hump. UNC, the coaches graveyard, maybe. I think it sounds Bruce Barnum fired when he got back to Portland State or Portland after flying out here. That's how you interpreted that, right, Ben? Because at first I was like, wait, did they fire him at the Loveland Airport and then make him just figure out a way home? But I
I was
think
like, yeah, did Brucey get fired?
yeah, no, this is one I sent. Check your DMs, you bastard. I sent it to you and Jacob. Yeah, straight up, Brucey got fired, and the reaction seems to be split. How did he still have a job after like going 39-70 something? And then the other half was like that program did nothing to support him for years, and like what coach in their right mind would actually take that spot, which is pretty similar to where at least UNC feels like they're trying, even if they don't have much. It feels like they're trying to make it easier on Lamb. But now that you've processed the Bruce Barnum news a bit, Ben, what are your thoughts on that? That's a great thing to start this UNC podcast off with is some Portland State coaching news.
Yeah, that's a fun little instant reaction. What a dickhead tweet. Like, sorry, let's get the nastiness out of the way right there. What the hell? Like, athletic director does not travel with the team, but meets team charter at the airport to be like, so it's been cool, but like, get the fuck out of here. Like, what? Like, that's crazy. Um, Man, can't even let him get off the plane and get his luggage before like you're done. Like, don't travel back to the school. Just go home. We'll clean your office out for you.
I don't really understand that. Maybe it's like UNC and they all drive separate home from the airport, but there's a chance they just could have just let him take the bus back to campus and talk to him. I don't, especially at this level, you let a guy go 11 seasons with no success. What's the urgency to fire him on the tarmac? No
Yeah, like
success is wrong. 9-3 in that first year, but you know what I mean.
even so, like we joke top 5 Portland State because they had a top 5 recruiting class many years ago and did absolutely nothing with it. But like, dude, what a savagery! Like this level is like the most pure football because like FBS, it's big time football, it's prime time, it's movie theater football, it's put on for the masses, it's big dollar football. Like this is like still genuine. Like there's money involved, but like by and large, like this is like football at its most like grandeur, true form. And like that's just not needed. Like, hey man, you're fired. Want to shove it back on the bus? No, you don't. Fuck off.
I
Like,
hope your wife is ready to pick you up because
yeah. Hope she's ready to move because like you're probably not gonna want to stay here anymore. So hope you didn't like that house that much. Like,
I hear he
I don't know.
also did not verify this. I saw somewhere that they extended him in the off season too, which
Oh,
would just be a crazy. Again, like like the wins are what they are. The like Portland State as a program is what it is, but just all the kind of periphery things just seem like, what are we doing, fellas? Like this.
I mean, like, come on, even the NFL like has Black Monday, where it's like, all right, all the crappy teams, if you get a call at 9 a.m. to come in his office, like, your coach is fired. Like, it is what it is. You come in, have a cordial meeting, like, well, I'm sorry, I tried. It's like, yeah, we like you, but you're fired. And it's like, that's respectful. That has dignity. At the tarmac, get out of here. We don't like you anymore. 11 years, one day, get the fuck out.
Yeah, literally, it's just a brutal
Oh,
one. I'm sure.
we make fun of Brucey, but like I think we both feel bad for him.
Oh yeah,
That's a rough way to just like he probably knew it was coming, but at the same time, it's like that's tough.
it is. It's one of those also where I kind of agree with everybody. Who the hell is going to take this job? Like,
Ooh.
if because we've talked about this a lot, and we're homers. Obviously, we're going to think UNC is a better spot. Campus on stadium, or stadium on campus. Like at least it feels that doesn't feel like a Darren Dunn move. Like Darren Dunn, criticize him all you want. I don't think he'd meet Ed Lamb on the tarmac in Loveland and fire him instead of just letting him come back to Greeley and talking to him at the facility. And it just feels like there's a lot of like, where do you go from here, Portland State? There are comments being like they should just shut down their football program.
I mean, like we were even joking about it. Like UNC is usually the poor child of the conference, and we saw.
Oh
I
yeah,
texted you, and I was like, "There's only 2 buses, Chris. Like, did these guys travel full or something?" And it's like, no, like it seemed like they had a full team. Like there was 4 different quarterbacks who made the travel and were all active. Like legitimately, I don't know. It's just it's a a wealthy city, but maybe not a wealthy school because I think the pilots that we just beat last night in basketball might have a little bit better funding, a little bit more. They're private
yeah.
and religious, so that probably
Also, no
helps.
football team to drain all the funds.
That also probably helps. But considering all of those factors, like, there shouldn't be a lacking of resources, but maybe kind of like really they have a lacking of football excitement. So I don't know. It's always tough in a non-football environment to make football happen. It's kind of like you can't make fetch happen. It either does or it doesn't.
That 2 buses thing, actually, that you mentioned, Ben, I'm glad you brought that up because I did want to talk about that. UNC last year, and I assume in basically every year prior to that, on road trips, it was 2 buses for offense, defense, and all the support staff would cram onto two. Every other team in the conference besides Portland State, I suppose, would roll with 3, and that's what UNC started doing this year. It was like a thing that Eddie Gonzalez, the director of ops, had like mentioned wanting to be a thing. So yeah, I think that's a great. It kind of illustrates actually how rough of shape Portland State is in, because if we're actually to a point where we are doing things at a higher level, like we have more funding available to us, or maybe they're using their funding different, but you know what I mean. It's and we know how rough it is here. So then, like that money versus like and adding a 30-minute drive to the stadium for any students who want to go watch, then you add a 1-11 team on top of that. It's just brutal, man. Like it's really tough, and I do not envy the position that the Portland State Vikings are in, even as much as we like to give them shit.
Yeah, I mean, like in terms of infrastructure, it might be the worst in the Big Sky, and like maybe like top 5 worst of the Mississippi, like structure wise. I know we don't know everybody's, buildings and game plan and game day operations to a
I
T,
will
but like
say Houston Christian was pretty. It was a worse stadium, but it was on campus. So
the
like I feel
CVS
like
corner lot.
yeah, and I feel like I would take a worse stadium to be on campus, like in a heartbeat. And I think not like that's Nottingham. It holds less. I think it's a cooler stadium and has more of like a college football vibe because it's not just like a rent a field like Hillsborough is. Um,
Right, but even
but
so, like something that we probably don't compute most times just because like we're so used to it, is that there's not locker rooms in the stadium. You have to walk across the parking lot to go to
Oh
Boca
yeah,
to like navigate to where the locker rooms are in Butler. Like, I mean, it's not necessarily a poor thing by,
kind of.
I mean, kind of, but
Well,
like
it's
it's more
also
so just like it's a weird logistical thing that you don't see a lot of places.
I think it is a poor thing, but it's also a UNC is rich in space when they built all their stuff. So like that, if that was like at a more condensed campus, I feel like it wouldn't be as big of a deal just because it is a pretty long walk. I'm surprised, and maybe it's something coming in the future. Coach Lamb talked about trying to raise some money, which is completely out of like character for him mentioning like fundraising because usually it's like a we have what we have thing.
Yeah, he
Um,
mentioned the usual. He's like recruiting, retainment, and then he said a magical word that I will not say
see,
because I want it so badly to come. But he mentioned fundraising for certain parts of the program, infrastructure wise. So yeah, Chris is giving you the if you're not a visual listener, you need to jump on the visual. We just gave you the hint right there, but my God, that would be big to bringing us up to par necessarily.
and it feels like a correct time thing too with that. But I wonder if along with that additional funding could be. I don't understand why there's not like a game day locker room in that Empower Center. I mean, I understand it because it's more money, more things to build, but feels like they could at least put a home locker room in there so then the Bears don't have as long to walk, and then it's not a challenge for them. It's like a like a gamesmanship. We make you walk all the way from the Bank of Colorado locker room, but we have something here on the field. But
That could be
yeah,
kind of interesting if you, and even if well, and here let's add on to imaginary land. What if they made like a fun little um like a, oh, what do you call those, like the bridge, like the pedestrian bridges that go like
oh,
over the highways, like a cool little walk up thing that you like you run down the tunnel, the Boca tunnel, or
that would be
I
cool.
don't
I
know,
feel
the
like that would
Wing
be.
Shack tunnel.
Whoa, we would need more funds than Wing Shack. We need
Well, somebody's got to slap their face on it.
the Vincent Jackson Legacy Family Memorial Tunnel or something. We
There you go.
we
Just like something crazy like that. I like
that
that.
would
And it's
that'd
like
be. I think
they're
that'd be
coming
more
from two different
expensive
places
than.
to do battle. Like it's like, it's vaguely like freaking, what would that be? That would be east and southeast. So like not exactly like coming from opposite sides of the stadium to face battle, but I don't know. That could be kind of fun.
I agree, and I think all that stuff is if the trajectory that we believe, at least I believe. I don't want to speak for you, but I think we're kind of on the same page. The trajectory I think this program is on, it feels like a good time to get. It feels like these upgrades they're late, but they're like coming at a time where we didn't need like lights for an example the past 2 years because we weren't getting an ESPN2 game in like the dark like a late night because we just and maybe next year we probably still don't get one of those but like if they win
But the
7 8
conference is
games
trending that way.
exactly and if UNC is on that upward trajectory too that it makes sense like now is actually a time where the conference would feature them, and we have the capabilities to host a 7 p.m. like no or 7 p.m. November game, dude. Though that would be brutal. That's that. We can get into the lights thing because we see these completely opposite. Even though I admit I'm in the minority, but
Well, see, even when like, but we're not having a great year. This year was considered a very good year in terms of UNC terms. I know 4-8, that's a wild thing to say, but for us, progress is progress. But even so, even considering where we've been the last couple years and where we're at, we still get a Big Sky game of the week. I can't
I
remember
think
which one that was.
we got
Was
two
it Davis? Or did
because
we get two?
it was Sac State, and then I think Ewu was also game of the week. Though that one was a very disappointing
So
result for
yeah,
that.
like neither went our way, but like we still get involved in that. We still get offered a chance, even if it's just like, wow, like everybody's on a bye week. Who hasn't had a season? Oh, we should give it to Greeley. Like even
The
if it's
Sac
just
State one
that,
makes sense. The
Yeah.
Iwu one, I think, is what you're describing, but I think the Sac
Yeah.
State one was probably the Big Sky game of the week because just with how the two teams were kind of trending at that time.
Well, no, I don't. Didn't Montana State play UC Davis that week? That should have been it.
Which week was that? Last week?
Eastern's week? Yeah.
They did. I thought it was it. I agree. It should have been that UC Davis game. I thought for some reason it was the Iwu game,
Yeah.
though.
But either way, it's like we
I
still
might
get
just be lying.
invited to that, even though, like, prestige wise, we're probably not at the point where we should be getting those, except for, like, during that like 4 to 6 week region in there where there's like weird everybody like takes a bye all at once type deal. That makes sense. But even so, like, if we want to host like one of those and like we have lights, we can do a night game. We can, you know, have a team come in and have their own locker room where we're not putting them in a giant classroom and telling them, oh, just go change in the classroom. It's fine. Because like that part is kind of heinous. But like, because if we have volleyball going on, like we got to make sure the ladies all have like suitable places to change at and be, because like that's just the decent thing. Like guys, like screw it, just don't hang nothing nasty by a window or whatnot. But, in terms of like us having multiple events in one day, it's challenging. So getting up to par on that, getting up to par on being able to follow the conference's lead in wanting night games, wanting ESPN regular channel attention, like I get it. Like we just got to step up to that plate.
Well, let's take a look back, I guess. Since we are end of the season, like you said, 4 wins, a good season for UNC. It sucks, but like you have to acknowledge the progress as is. And one thing I hammered on the radio broadcast yesterday was this felt like an actual college basketball season or college football season for UNC. Like we got to experience the highs and the lows, and we would go into games not just expecting to get trounced like 55-7, which is a spot we were not in last year. So all in all, like that, it's a little bit kind of jaded, I would say, because of that 5-game stretch or 5-game losing streak ahead of the Portland State game. But just when you kind of look at it as a whole, a lot to look back on positively on this season. Started way back in August, which feels like 6 to 8 years ago at this point, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Against Chadron State, it was a 17-3 win, which at the time I think everybody was like, "Oh, here we go again." Barely holding off a D2 school. But Chadron actually, kind of as the season unfolded, had themselves a hell of a year.
Yeah, they ended up losing to Pittsburgh State yesterday, 21-17. Pittsburgh State number 4 in the West Region playoffs. So, yeah, a bummer for them, but ultimately, like, we played a team that lost, that came up second in the RMAC. They got to actually play for their title against CSUP and lost that. But like we played well against them when both of us were not operating on full cylinders, and made sure that game didn't slip away from us. Also, Chris, Chadron State had the RMAC Defensive Player of the Year, Special Teams Player of the Year, and Coach of the Year. So, granted, they came a long way. They were 8th in their conference last year, and they ended up being 2nd. So, great upward trajectory for them. Also, local shout out, Cooper Walton got 15 tackles in their playoff loss from Roosevelt. So, shout out, former Roosevelt player. But yeah, like the Bears, they played a quality D2 team. I know everybody's like, great, we can barely get past like an RMAC bottom feeder. Maybe we should be there too. But like, you just have to appreciate how tough the FCS is, how tough the Big Sky is, and how tough our schedule was. Like, looking through this, we had an FBS team and we had multiple ranked FCS teams that we'll talk about. The Bears had the 14th hardest schedule in the FCS nation.
Yeah, and not even included in that, in like kind of the little preview gave, there was a Colorado State game, which is and not a great FBS team, a program that is in true disarray, I would say, at least if you listen to the fans on Twitter.
I would like to say they fired their coach partially because of us.
The thing is, I think they would have fired their coach. Like that would have been if they'd have lost, I don't think they would have fired him after
Yeah,
the
of course
UNC
they did
game.
lose, but the officials said they didn't lose.
You're right. If it had been counted as a loss, I don't think that would have been the straw that broke the camel's back. But the next week would have been. Like, I think it would have happened much sooner if they wouldn't have kind of had that help from the refs to get that win. But that
Also,
was
let's just acknowledge from like Coach Lamb, like we asked him what his favorite memory is, and we'll wait till the next team on the schedule to bring that up. But also, just like the quote that he gave about Carver is, "I don't know how you take away a catch from somebody who caught it 10 feet above the ground, and then say that it hit the ground." So, shout out to Coach for defending the players without getting himself in trouble.
that's the second like week in a row. I think it was last week or two. Yeah, last week midweek maybe. He was like, how do I say this without getting fined? And then said whatever he was going to say about a call that the ref made. I think it was the sneak that they said Hank didn't get in on. But he's got a little more shit to him than you would think just by like the name Ed Lamb and like his reputation. He's not really afraid to like
And
be
he's got a long
critical of.
memory too. Like, Coach might be very polite and respectful, but he holds on to things.
But that kind of leads us into game 3 pretty easily, which is what Lamb said was his favorite memory of the season. Is he said, I think he mentioned, he even said it in the locker room after that CSU game, like next week will be I don't, what was the word he
It was
used?
a character check.
Character check. Because like after all of that, after the fallout on social media that ensued, that CSU overturned call, to come out to South Dakota and put up the battle that they did, he said was the moment that would stick with him. And when it happened, like when that South Dakota game happened, I didn't really think of it in those terms, but he's 100% right. They, like, that was a great character check, put that tough loss behind him, and didn't end up winning, but played admirably against the South Dakota team that I think we're seeing later in the year. There's maybe a bit of an overcorrection mid-season on how far they dropped in that top 25 poll.
Yeah, I think that's a decent way to put it. As they came out with blundering expectations, I think the Bears, not only there was an overtime game that got away from them, but maybe a little bit of clock mismanagement in the last couple seconds of the fourth quarter, just like have to rush out, and like Willig saves us by getting a field goal in there from the 1 or 2, because those first 3 attempts to try to get in through rushing just weren't happening. And shout out to them forcing overtime. I feel like there still could have been a gutsy call to go for the win, and then that would have had a 50-50 chance. But here we are. I think it was a great story from Coach, and also a great perspective of like he still believed in the team even though they had just gotten something yanked away from them. They still believed in themselves even though they were facing a 12th or a 20th best team in the nation, depending on what ranking you're looking at. On the road, he said it was one of the hardest places to travel to in the FCS landscape that he's been to so far. You went on that trip. It wasn't exactly easy, just get off DIA, just walk into the school type deal. So a lot of factors against them. I think they performed very well. The next week, I think we got a little scared though.
Yeah, that's always, he's mentioned South Dakota being a tough trip a couple times, where that was like one of the, it's funny because he's right, because you fly into Sioux City, Iowa, and have to drive an hour to Vermilion, and really an hour and a half to Yankton, because there's no hotels in Vermilion that'll hold that many people. But it's also like just an hour flight. It's like a quick hour from from Loveland to Sioux City. So that was one of the easier trips in my memory. But when you do get to the Dakota Dome, it's a really cool environment. I think it was. Is this a hot take, Ben? Maybe this is an after the recap thing. The Kibby Dome was my least favorite of the 3 domes we went to this year. Like, I think NAU was my favorite. South Dakota was second, and then the Kibby Dome was third. And
Okay.
um,
I mean, it's a hot take in terms of popularity for sure.
the Kibby Dome was cool, but I thought, I don't know, and it was old, which it's like an historic old, but South Dakota, I feel like was an old, but like an updated old kind of. I don't know. It's splitting hairs at this point.
Yeah, I
But
would
that
have
was
loved
just
to have seen the Dakota Dome. I gotta say, the walk-up Sky Dome kind of disappointed a little bit.
really
Yeah, I
in
mean it
what
was neat,
terms?
but it was like some of the things that were old about the building that probably should be getting looked at for updates or just reworked. I think they pass off as historic, and I'm like, it just doesn't look like it's in good shape. But
Buddy,
there were
you
some
made
parts
a
where it's like the lumberjack, like axe, like video boards. Those were very cool, and those were very updated. But like just the field accessibility, like very, very inconvenient.
That's true. Which is also, if you thought the Sky Dome had old elements, Ben, you would have thrown up in the Kibby Dome.
That's fair. Rusty beer
But
can.
but that's fair. Kibby Dome was the opposite in that is like you walked behind the out of the press box just out the back, and then you just went straight down the stand through the stands onto the field, which it was cool in its own way. But South Dakota, the Dakota Dome was more similar to, actually way more similar to NAU, because I had to like down run all the way to like the corner end zone and then like down onto the field. So that but we're getting a little away from ourselves here. But I do agree with you. I think when that South Dakota game went into overtime is when the game was over. I
Yeah.
think UNC just shot their load in regulation, and it was one of the like there was just never a chance in overtime. But I also don't necessarily disagree that kicking the field goal was the right call instead of going for it on 4th and 1 after you'd been stopped on
Yeah, I'm not
first,
against
second,
it.
and
I'm just
third.
like, there could have been like maybe Charlie Garrison like lines up on the outside edge and like you fake the run and then you do a little pop up pass and maybe he catches it, maybe he doesn't. But all in all, that was the safe bet and it just didn't fall all our way in overtime. But thankfully the next week did.
Yeah, Houston Christian, 26-23 overtime win in a game that had no business being that close at all. Two pick sixes by Eric Gibson to bookend that first half really kept Houston Christian in it. I think Houston Christian only scored 7 offensive points, or maybe I don't know exactly. Maybe it was 9, but it just did not. UNC was a better team and should have won by 30, but I think they were still shaking off like a bit of a stink after that CSU and South Dakota games. But that was I don't know, that was just a solid. They went in, they should have taken care of business, and then they did.
Yeah, it was. Looking back on it, it's probably one of our almost got moments right there. Houston Christian ended up on the year 2-10. Their two wins were against Augustana State and Northwestern State. One of them being FCS, and that team was 1-11. So not exactly a stellar win, but a stellar effort at just like not letting the moment get away from you. Like they tried to open up the reins a little bit, like finally let Gibson throw down the field a bit. I think that's when we first started seeing our real like solid, consistent connection with Cheeks being like, oh wow, like, Cheeks can get the deep ball, and that's pretty sick. So I think Gibson getting the reins released was good and bad because like there was obviously some disgusting interceptions in that game, but at the same time, like he still had enough resolve and enough grit to finish it out.
Yeah, I think that was like a kind of let go of the reins thing, because we had seen pieces of the Carver Cheeks thing in CSU on that last drive, really on South Dakota, kind of on that last drive, really. Um, and I think the feeling at the time was like just let him chuck it. Like we actually have a quarterback that can throw, like kind of like let him loose. And I think that game was a bit of letting him loose, and also a bit of predictability, because I remember Bates had said, a friend of the program, Bates, after that CSU game, I was like, what'd you think of Gibson? And he was like, he looked like a wide receiver turned quarterback, because like what route did he throw to besides the RPO slant and just the go ball? And I was like, it worked pretty well, but you're not necessarily wrong. And I think both of those pick sixes were on those RPO slants that that Houston Christian just jumped. But I think it was like a moment where even with those two, he played well in that game. I think he had like 260 yards, and I think it was a moment where they. I don't. It never felt like the coaching staff still fully ever had confidence in Gibson the way I think we all had confidence in him. But that was like the close. I think that was like the turning point where they started to like be like, okay, we need to throw the ball. Like we need to be a pass to set up the run type of team.
Yeah, I agree with that. It finally started looking like a little bit more of a of a like a spread identity, which we tried to continue on in the season. We saw flashes of it be amazing and times where it was just kind of not really used. I think the next week where we were at Idaho State at home, early homecoming, and just like I just don't think we were ready for the moment. I think there was just too much drama the last couple weeks before that, and it was a lot to overcome mentally and physically. There was a lot of guys in and out of the injury room for sure, and right about that time, I was just like trying to develop an identity for conference, and I think Idaho State was just more developed than we were. Ultimately, like Jordan Cook, we agreed, decent quarterback, not a world beater. And we kind of made Dason Brooks, that running back, just look like an absolute stud. We made him look like Boobie Miles, like a movie theater type running back that you see from your favorite old football movie. He just looked like he could do no wrong and just kept on rumbling down the field. So unfortunately, I think our identity was just less developed at that time.
I agree, and it's weird because you think of Idaho State, you think of their identity being like slinging the ball all over, and they tried. They really did try because Jordan Cook threw 33 times, only completed 12. But it was Dason Brooks just toward the UNC defensive front up, and that was kind of the feeling of the season up until that point was like we are locked down in the passing game. Good luck trying to like kind of pick us apart in our secondary, but you can just hand the ball off for 7 yards a gain, almost no problem. And that kind of flipped as we went down the season, but I feel like that's when that in South Dakota was when it was at its most of that aspect. And I think the injuries can't really be overstated in this one. We were on O linemen like 8 and 9 during that game, and we just couldn't get anything going in the run game because of that. But luckily, after that, there was a nice bye week before the Idaho game.
Well, and Chris, as much as we talked about how up and down Idaho State was, technically in terms of the ESPN conference standings, they finished fifth on the year. So, for us to only lose to the fifth best team per se, and at least in terms of record, not necessarily in terms of strength of wins or anything else like that, I feel like that's a good place to be.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Because Idaho State's just been they've been like on the UNC rebuild trajectory, just like a step and a half ahead every year. Where I thought kind of what Cody Hawkins was doing was like a little bit gimmicky and like kind of cutesy, but they've proven after 3 years now it's working. They're 6-6, 5-3 in the conference. A winning Big Sky record is a good season, even
Yeah.
even if like you're Eastern Washington and play all the dog shit teams.
But they didn't have a winning record. They were 4-4, baby.
You're right, which is that's just and good. Like Eastern didn't deserve a winning record in conference this year. But another team without a winning record in conference, I guess that transition works. The Idaho Vandals, who this year, Ben, are exactly UNC. They are actually behind UNC because they are both 2-6. With UNC has the head-to-head win over the Vandals. This was probably the peak of the season. I don't know what else. I don't think there's another game you can point to.
Chris, it's crazy to say, but there's 4 teams that are 4-8 overall, 2-6 in conference, and we're at the top of that heap.
Yeah, which is a crazy thing to think about. With with a season that still felt pretty disappointing. But yeah, it looks like UNC. What's that? Eighth
Technically,
in
we
the
finished eighth.
conference. So a step up, a step up. I love to see it.
A big
I
step
love.
up. I mean, we haven't. I don't think we finished this far up probably since, without some weird qualifiers in there, probably since the 2015-2016 season where we actually had a winning record because we were playing 11 games at that time. Still not a winning record in conference, but I think those 6-5 seasons might have been just a hair higher than this. But this might be our second highest since then.
Which is another, I think, I don't want to say a stain, but like it shows
Another
really the
mark of
state.
improvement.
Yeah, but I think it really shows how just bad UNC football has been. And like we know it, but like really when you put it into terms like that, it's kind of crazy to think about. But that takes us to the Sac State game, which was a 40-35 loss. And I've talked about this with my Tribune colleague Ann Delaney. I think this was the game, like the straw that broke the camel's back, because I think this like close loss was the one that really everybody was like, it just started to build, and it was the first time where I saw Lamb just like look broken. Like he after that game in Sacramento, he had a couple guitars that he was picking up from his like family out in California. And I walked over and like just made a joke about like, you got a gig coming up? And you could like the way he like turned to me, he was just so sad. And I think he was kind of a representation of the whole team there, where it was like all this hard work, and we could easily at that point have been, what would it have been, 5-1, yeah, or 6-1 even. It with the Idaho State was really the game that shouldn't have been a win there. And I think it was really the start of this slide, even though it wasn't where it really showed in that game.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Sacramento State ends up fourth in the Big Sky. They were receiving votes at the time. When we beat Idaho, they were 11th and 13th. So that was our first FCS ranked win. I mean, technically Weber was ranked, but like our first real ranked win in many years. So that was a good sign of it. I agree with you on Sac State. Being 5 points away or 6 points away from beating the fourth best team in the conference, that's a great place to be. But until you beat them, it's always just a great place to be. It's like horseshoes and hand grenades. Like you were almost there from making another point, but not quite. And I think that carried on for probably the next 4 weeks. The next month of football was just kind of affected by it. I think UC Davis we performed well against. They were number 6 team in the nation. They ended up finishing third in the Big Sky. We lost by 11 points to them. I think it was a very valiant effort, but also like we have to put in the qualifier that Caden Pinnock wasn't playing. The guy who was up for freshman All-American status wasn't in the game. So could that game have been that much better or that much worse if we had been in the right mindset? I think so. That much worse if Pinnock was in. And the slide really continued. Montana State, like I don't think there's much to say about that game either. 55-7. It just the wheels fell apart. It was, I think schematically we had a good plan in the first quarter and a half, and I think from there, just everything after that was just beat by superior athleticism, superior recruiting, and better coaching game plans with better tools. I think that was not anything that we could have changed necessarily. Maybe it made it less worse, but that result was always kind of ensured. That was more of so of just like get a highlight if you can, get stats if you can, not give up stats if you can. Like that just kind of was what it was. I don't know anything to say about those 2 weeks other than just like it was superior teams and we were just in our heads, and I think that's why the margin was so bad.
Yeah, UC Davis, I almost like kind of separate them in. I think UC Davis was just a weird couple mistakes in the first half just put UNC behind the eight ball, and they still showed that fight in the second half. Had a chance to, I think, cut it to 3 with like 4 minutes to play. That OPI actually forced them to kick a field goal there, and after that, it was similar to the Portland State game today, or yesterday when they didn't score that last touchdown and just settled for the field goal. It was not over, but essentially over. And then I think Montana State just broke their confidence. Whereas if maybe Sac State kind of broke them, like was the first one, this one was like, I think maybe they went in thinking we're a team that can compete with anybody in the country, and then saw like, oh wait, they're in the country, like we can't compete with them. And I think it was one where you're right. I don't think the scheme or anything was bad. I don't think there was really much to do that would have had success against Montana State. They're just dogs. Like, I think they have dudes up and down that roster, and they're 10, 15 years of program building ahead of where UNC's at right now. So, yeah, I think that one just killed their confidence that carried into the next two games with Northern Arizona that we went to. Was just, it felt much of the same, but also Northern Arizona wasn't nearly as good of a team as Montana State.
Yeah, I think we gave Northern Arizona way too many flowers during that game. Sure, a receiving votes team, sure, probably just outside the playoffs team. I think we both agree that with them, because I believe they lost yesterday, I don't think they make the playoffs. 7-5 is just a weird place to be in the Big Sky, and I don't think it's enough to get past. Plus a terrible 20-point loss to Weber. Maybe they got in their heads the way that we got in our heads going to their homecoming. Also, the amount of homecoming games that we were involved in was pretty impressive. I think we're at 3 or 4 this year.
4 if you count ours.
4. There we go. So a month of homecomings. This was probably the least exciting, the least happy of any of them for Bears fans. Very cool that I got the chance to go down there and have a all Bear Claw media, staffing for the Pirate Radio guys. Shout out to our friend Garrett and him not being with us anymore, but cool opportunity for us to just horse around in the radio booth. No F-bombs, so we're doing better than the next week.
That one.
We're better than that. So, but yeah, it was a fun experience at Flagstaff, but the game was not fun. We got excited at a Braden Monroe 30-yard reception. That was probably the highlight of the game, and I think we even gave that as player of the game because it was like, that's the one time that UNC fans were like crazy and raucous, and the rest of the time was like, all right, well, we love our boys, but like, there's not much to pat them on the back for.
Yeah, that one at that point, it felt really starting to feel like the previous season. Like, it started to feel like last year where we're like, are we just done? Like, yeah, I don't want to say giving up, but like, have we kind of let go of the rope a little bit? And heading into Eastern Washington, I wasn't sure, quite frankly. Like, I was like, I still think we're better than this team, even though they came close against Montana. I still think we have every chance to win this game, but just like nothing about how we've been playing gives me the confidence that we will. So it was 27-7. I think it could have easily been 49-10, the same as Northern Arizona. Just a completely uninspired game. Eastern Washington didn't play well. Like, they had a snap go over the quarterback's head at the 1-yard line. That cost them 40 yards. They had a missed fake field goal from the 5-yard line that they didn't convert. So it could have easily been much worse. We knocked out their quarterback. I can't think, Skakel. I think the freshman who came in and just tore the world up against Montana. And they kind of took their foot off the gas after he went out. So it could have been much worse. And I almost think that may have been the worst game of the season that UNC played. It just, Eastern isn't the type of opponent that was going to take advantage of it to the point and make it 55-7,
I think that's a good way to put it. I didn't get to watch that game live because I was out of the country. with terrible radio reception, but like it was almost easier to deal with fighting with the different apps to like get one of them to just play the stream consistently and not have me buy app. Also, I need to go back and cancel that subscription because it's probably already charged my account. But it just listening to it, it was like, oh, this is just mistake after mistake after just bad choice, and it was just a culmination of the season just kind of coming to a head, and it hurt some disgruntled players on the after some of the games and on the planes and rides and stuff, and we heard a little bit of bickering back and forth, and I think it was definitely coming to a head of just like they know that they were a good team, and what were they at that point in the week, and it was just, I think it was too many factors not on the right tracks.
Yeah, and that, I think you nailed that, and that gave me a little pause heading into Portland State. Like I was, just a little bit nervous because it was like we're obviously, and then it showed out exactly this way. UNC was like 3 or 4 touchdowns better than this Portland State team. Like, and I think we knew that coming in, and I think the coaches knew that, and I think that's why they were like, we need to stick with one quarterback. We just need, either of these quarterbacks will win us the game. We just need to pick one and kind of roll with it. And they picked Eric Gibson Jr. I think it was the right choice. He played better his ceiling. He's shown his highs have been higher than anything Castelli's shown at UNC. Granted, not completely Castelli's fault with like being in and out of the lineup. But yeah, chose Eric Gibson Jr. Didn't look inspired. Didn't seem to have that much confidence in him still. Ran for like 215 yards, paced by Justin Gwynn, a run of like 65 and then one of 44. The 65-yarder, almost a touchdown. The replay bug got us once again and had that one overturned. But like Coach Lamb said, it ended up working out in their favor. Able to just kick the field goal and seal that game anyway. But leading to a 4-8 season with a lot of ups and downs.
And can I just say how much more enjoyable the game was to watch with just one quarterback in there? Like, not trying to choose favorites. It's just like seeing the switch out, seeing the lack of seeming, like, just to put it in a blunt way, the lack of thought of like why this guy's going in, or just like random subbing, or like one drive and just back and forth. Just it takes a toll on the fans. It takes a toll on alumni of just being like, gosh, if this is a scheme, I don't understand the scheme. If it's not a scheme, I feel bad for the kids, and I feel bad for the playmakers around the quarterback trying to go from like chemistry A to chemistry B to chemistry A to B to B, and just back and forth. So I think while the running game, like interesting that the running game was not really a big success all year long, and that's exactly what they chose to be the Achilles heel to Portland State, is just beat them at what they're good at. Very interesting choice there, but it paid off, and Gwynn got to be showcased in a way I don't think he's been showcased all year, so he got some kudos that were deserved.
Yeah, no, I love that Gwynn broke a couple ones off, because he's been I don't want to say a workhorse, because that's a little misleading, but he's just been around every game. He's played a lot of snaps, gotten a handful of carries, just hasn't been featured in a way where some of those like direct snap stuff was fun and that had some good success, but really I like to see the fruit of his efforts kind of bloom and pay off here to yesterday against Portland State, finishing with 120 yards, 1 touchdown. Just an encouraging sign for him at the end of the season.
Yeah, nice to have something to hang on to at the end of it. I mean, like, it was an 11-point win. I think it was pretty obvious that we were the better team. It just never got very obvious on the scoreboard.
So I think the quarterback stuff, it feels right. I guess before we move forward, Ben, any kind of things you want to highlight from this season? Because I think a lot of what we can look back on will also factor heavily into how we're like looking forward to next season.
Yeah, I think my biggest thing right now is um, improvement. Is just like, did any of us think that we were going to be in the CSU game? No, I think I picked it to be kind of like the CSU game that was in the farewell season of Hughes at like 42-17, 42-24, something like that. Like, we would have some guys get some highlights, but I don't think that we would get to the point where we won the game and it was literally yanked away on a controversial replay. I don't think we expected to compete with South Dakota, and we go to overtime with them because Aiden Bowman struggled early in the season. So I think just like nice surprises of like feeling and looking like a football team.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, I think my overall takeaway is what I said earlier is like this is the first season in years that I feel like UNC fans have got to enjoy an actual college football season. Like
Yeah,
it wasn't. It was just better from beginning to end. And I think maybe I'm hammering that because when you're like traveling with the team and like I'm a very small piece, but like I feel like I'm putting in a lot of my time and effort like on this team, so I can't even imagine like the frustrations with some of the players when this stuff um, goes wrong, and if they think things aren't like up to par, so to speak. So I think that's kind of my biggest takeaway. Looking forward, though, Ben, how do you foresee this quarterback situation kind of unfolding? It's just a really it's who knows is kind of where I'm at. I don't think both of them, both Castelli and Gibson, can they. I think the team wants both of them to return. I think that's the worst case scenario is that both come back.
I gotta agree. We talked a little bit about this at um Dugout Sports Bar, which shout out. It'll be too late by the time you're listening to it, but the basketball boys are gonna try to do some home away from home basketball coverage over there. Nice ladies, nice bartenders, all that good stuff. But
Shout
what
out Morgan.
shout out Morgan. Morgan's a stud.
He's a
Um,
pro.
but yeah, looking at the quarterback situation, I think we both agreed Gibson has a higher ceiling, even though he makes a lot of mistakes, especially like mid-season on. Like interceptions were flowing as much as touchdowns were, if not more. But ceiling's higher. And Castelli, like he's been injured. He just hasn't been able to showcase himself. He was picked as like the coach's golden child, basically, and just I think both of us agree. I don't know if this is a healthy environment for him to showcase himself. And he might need somewhere that's even more tailored to him to fully blossom. Because I don't know, just some of the games where he was like fully in there, it didn't necessarily feel like we were in a position to win. And like maybe this season was an exception, and Gibson just had like kind of like a savant type season. Maybe that's the case, but I don't know. From what we saw this season, from what we've seen of everything of Castelli, it just seems like there was more pieces in place, and they clicked better with Gibson.
Yeah, everything just seemed easier with Gibson. It felt like there's just something about when you watch a football game and you're like that offense that was like a manufactured offense where everything went right. The play caller was like a step ahead of the D coordinator every like step of the way. It was some of those Portland State drives. There was like a 11 plays 41-yard drive and it was 1st and 10. They had just like gotten exactly what they needed every single play. If it was 3rd and 4, they got 4.5. But like that's almost what the Castelli offense feels like. It feels like they need everything to go right and they need to like out execute the defense on every single play, which I think is kind of in line with what we see the philosophy of an Ed Lamb coach team. But then because with Gibson, it just felt a little easier. Like, I don't want to say he's like leaps and bounds more talented, because I don't even think I believe that, but it just felt like he was able to just throw one up on the corner and Carver Cheeks would come down with it. They were able to like get Monroe running across the middle in space. It was just, they were able to kind of stretch the defense. And then all of a sudden these running lanes are here for Brandon Johnson and Carius Boone. It just feels every step along the way, things were just a little bit easier with Gibson. And with what Lamb said going into the Idaho game, he was like, hey, talking to the defense, like you're going to need to be ready to play an extra, I don't know, 10 to 15 snaps, because like with this Gibson offense, we're going to move the ball quicker, most likely. It's either moving the ball down the field quicker, or like kind of maybe boom or bust, more 3 and outs as well. Even though I don't think if you looked at the numbers, it necessarily shaped up exactly like that. I think it was, I don't even know. It's hard to compare with how varied the numbers of snaps each took were, but I think that's where I kind of fall on it. Is the Castelli offense can be successful, but it feels like so many things have to go right, and the first thing that has to go right is the offensive line needs to be better. Like, if you're going to run that style of offense, the offensive line needs to be able to get a push. Like, they need to be just stronger and more physical than the defensive line. And I think that's where we're working towards, but I just don't think we were there yet this year. Oh, you're muted, my man. You're still muted, my man.
There we go. The piece by piece method is just really rough and really tough to just gamble on. And I don't know that we want to see that as a product. I don't think we want to see that as like the mold going forward. So that's just me personally.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's weird because I think that Castelli needs a fresh start. I think it's just kind of, I think both sides need a fresh start, which is so unfortunate because he came in and it feels like he hasn't gotten his chance. He has, but every time he's like ready to show off that opportunity that he's earned, he gets hurt, and it just sucks. It just really sucks. And it especially sucks because this will be Castelli's 4th school if he does transfer. But he could still have 2 to 3 years of eligibility, even with a transfer, like another transfer under his belt. So I feel like it's a cursed situation here at UNC, and would really just like, in an ideal world, he finds another, he goes to like a Southland program and just tears it up, and we can, and UNC's doing well, and both sides can be like, man, I wish it would have worked together, but like it was for the best.
Yeah, I mean, like Sam Vidlac down at SFA, I believe. So the
Still
route
is.
is there to do that. Kiko Esveris went to Tennessee Tech, and they're going to be in the FCS playoffs this year. So who knows? I mean, out of all that, like there's a lot of different places that people could go and whatnot. But I think the transfer portal, it like this is my last thing is one huge compliment to this team, and maybe it's just the structure of it, so maybe just like it's unfair to give this compliment, but at least how it feels right now to not see a plethora of kids 3 weeks out, 2 weeks out, 1 week out from the season being over, putting out, well, I'm gonna be transferring, so yeah, like gonna be going betting on myself, like going up and up, like that's all great and stuff, but like when you do that during the season, it's such a disrespect to your teammates. It's such just like throwing it in their faces of being like, hey, you guys aren't good enough for what my goals are. I'm just gonna go. I'm just like, after these couple games, yeah, this doesn't matter to me anymore. Like, for at least for everybody to wait, and maybe this is just structurally, but even just as a fan, as just like a coach in different terms, a teacher, to see people not jumping in the portal is just such a huge relief. I think this might be something a coach could speak to even better for us is just like it's a huge relief to not see all of that junk while you're still trying to finish out a season.
Yeah, that's a great point. I was telling, and again, like I this week we were talking, and I was like, I think we should have like the transfer portal tracker shell like ready, because I wouldn't be surprised to see some of these guys hit the portal come Saturday afternoon, Sunday morning, even. And it's we haven't yet. Sitting here Sunday morning at about 10 a.m. We haven't seen that yet. I actually just scrolling through Twitter. I feel like I'm almost like missing it, because where the hell where are they at? Like,
And maybe structurally people just wait until the semester's over. Like I know there's those early people that are just jonesing to get out there into the portal. I mean, shoot, in past relations, Cash Cheeks was one of the first ones during his transfer portal class, and it ended up working out for him of where he went to. But just as a by and large, just if players, if the new model is that players can at least wait till after the last game, I think that's just a huge relief to coaches, to fans, to not be like, oh great, well okay, should we even throw him the ball? He's not going to be here next year. What does it matter? Like, throw the freshman the ball. Like, at least he's like not leaving us.
yeah, it feels weird that the coaching cycle schedule seems to be moving forward. Like, James Franklin's hired as Virginia Tech's coach, even though they have a head coach right now who's actively coaching the team. But you're right, the player aspect does seem to have kind of moved back, and changing the portal to one portal in January with a couple like qualifiers for coaches leaving and stuff like that, giving you extra windows. I think that's a good move, and I maybe that's like, I bet it's a combo of that plays a factor in why maybe people haven't announced it already, and the fact that I think there is more buy-in from these players in year three, now that there is tangible results on the field to look back on, because man, I mean, Carver Cheeks, like, he feels like he could hit the portal again. That would kind of be a middle finger to the program, but also I get it. Like,
It's exactly what I detailed when I was worried about like this whole drama, and we brought up that episode long discussion
yeah,
of whether or not it was right to come back to the program and all that. And I think he came back. He got a scholarship back, at least from what Coach promised that would happen, and he had a great year. He had the best year of all the receivers here, and like if he moves on, I think we all understand it. Like it won't feel good because we'll be like, damn, wish we could see more Gibson to Cheeks next year. But if he moves on, like I think it'll make sense. It'll be like, ugh, well, it sucks, but like at the same time, like he came back, he made the best stats that he's had, and now he has that as a springboard. But do I think that's going to necessarily get him anywhere crazy where he's going to be a starter? I still have my reservations on that. Still would rather like see him in a Bears uniform, but that's just me.
yeah. The other portal guy I'm most worried about is Chappa, like the contributor portal guy. Ekibon, I could see Ekibon maybe because he had a pretty solid season. Makura Brum, I think, did things well. Dominic Butts, I am less afraid because he feels like an Ed Lamb guy, from Severance. But there's talent that can leave. I just really hope that this last win and the tangible results, along with the revenue sharing, letting UNC award multiple they can give Cam Chappa 3 scholarships, which just pays out to cash once all his expenses are covered. So it gives them a little bit more of a chance to maybe retain some of these guys. So I just really hope they're able to.
Yeah, Chappa scares me for sure. I know we have some inside baseball on that makes us a little extra concerned on that one, but ultimately, I think he's done a great job, and it's the thing that scares me the most is what you said the other day is just like just with Jerome Campbell. Jerome Campbell was an amazing talent. UNC should be forever grateful. We even got him to run for our program and whatnot. But one of his biggest motivations moving on to Arkansas wasn't that he didn't love Bear Country, that he didn't love UNC, that even though he hated cold places, that he really did enjoy it here because he likes inside activities. But but besides all that, like met his girlfriend that is now his fiance, like all kinds of great things. But athletically and professionally, how much more could he do here besides the same thing of winning the Big Sky, winning his events, or placing top 3? What else can he do? Like at Arkansas, they have like crazy cryogen like warmer things that we've seen Andre Spite use in all of his different European and Argentinian uh, you know pro basketball stuff. Like they just have all these like resources, and he can compete at the SEC, which is literally like the top of the heap besides the Big Ten for track athletics. And that's what scares me is like, does Chappa feel bottomed out, or does he feel like the Big Sky isn't big enough for Chappa? Like he could be here all 4 years, and it would be amazing, and he can be a perennial all conference guy. But does he want to try to push his limits? Does he want to try to fight for a starting spot at somewhere big with lots of money? I wouldn't blame him if he did.
That's the thing is, I wonder, where he's a little bit small for his like a little short. Maybe I don't. He's not even that small. I think he's a fine size for the way he plays. The fact that he never misses an open field tackle has to appeal to some of those programs. I think it all comes down to what offers he has. I'm sure if he's leaving, he already has a couple offers in the pocket, and if he doesn't have a couple offers already in the pocket, it's probably not worth leaving because who knows? I think, yeah. Is there a Power Four school who's because yeah, does he is he willing to go to maybe an ACC school and compete to be the starter, or would he rather stay here another year, be guaranteed the starter in a defense that fits really well to his skill set, and then maybe next year he can go to an ACC school or a Big 12 school or something where it's not like a compete to be the starter. He's brought in and paid as the guy who's coming in to start.
Or like a
So it's
power
just
school only by
yeah,
name, kind of like you rattle off Boston College, and I was like, oh yeah, that is big time. It's not winning, but it's big time.
yeah. He'd go play for Bill O'Brien over there, or the old I can't think of the Wazoo's old coach, but down at Wake Forest. I think there's opportunities for him. I feel like I don't know the room, but I feel like he could go to CSU and start tomorrow. Like, which maybe that's a step up enough that he's willing to kind of take that. And if that's the case, it's like a Hunter Green thing. Like, can't blame him. He's put in 2 good years. We'll hope that he can get another one in here and at least one more. But any other guys Braden Monroe's one we didn't talk about. He's the legacy. His dad played at UNC, I think, on the one of the national title teams at least. So that gives me a little hope.
Yeah,
Maybe
that one
he'll hang
doesn't scare
around.
me as much because it feels like he doesn't have the stats to leave necessarily. He has the size, he has most of the intangibles, but um, again, like with Carver, like Carver's a fantastic talent. He really broke out this season. If coaches recruit him based off of film rather than numbers, I think he has a good chance. It's just he doesn't have numbers that jump off the page as like, woof, we gotta like go get that guy. Like we're gonna be in a bidding war for that guy. It's not any disrespect to him because he had a great season, but at the same time, like I feel like it's hard when you don't have fantastic stats at a cluttered position to get the spot that you want for sure, or to get the spot that you want and get it to be a full or a half ride. That's the only reservation I have for Carver is just receivers pretty cluttered. Safety, if that's what Choppa continues to be, I feel like his numbers are pretty sick turnover wise. His film very good at open field tackles, just like you said. I feel like he's a little bit more of the overall package, and it's just, are the stats enough? Is the size enough? And depending on the right program, I think a lot of yeses would be out there for him.
That's fair. I hope it's not the case. I know it's the case. Is the thing. I hope that I feel like such a homer saying I hope he sees the value in like staying another year. But I just hope he stays another year. I'll just leave it at that. I just don't, I like watching him play a lot. He's probably the best player on the team. I don't want him to go. As simple as that.
I think for sure. I think without a doubt the transfer portal will claim a couple lives in the sense of Darius Stewart. Love
Yeah,
Red, love how he played, absolute dog. But like the last we checked, unless we're wrong, he didn't end up somewhere. I don't know what that means for him finishing out his degrees or if he needed to, if he has another year or if it's burned because of the running clock. It's just scenarios like that where like guys have to scramble and go D3 or like scramble and just nothing they want pans out. And it's like, do I go somewhere I don't want to go? Or do I call it quits? Do I say, hey, this is the end of the road for football. This is the end of the road for school. Like, that's a really tough, bitter decision. But at the same time, like, if you put yourself out there and you don't have a way back, because Lamb said, like, yeah, you don't necessarily have a way back sometimes. Carver made his way back and he made the most of it, but I don't think that's the case for 80 to 90% of kids. So I have a worry that like the cluttered positions like linebacker, receiver, and corners, we'll probably see somebody who's disgruntled, who wants more playing time, who wants to just put their name out there, and they're betting on themselves. They think they're great. They want to go show the world that they're great. That's great and dandy, but like a lot of it, like coaches will tell you, is predetermined. Like a lot of it's like there's already been coaches in your inbox, or there's coaches that want to be in your inbox and are waiting for the exact moment that like it's legally able to send you something. Um, I think there's a lot of that like predetermined stuff out there. I don't think there's a lot of luck. I don't think there's a lot of like, well, we're looking for somebody. We're 10 days into the 15-day portal. Hey, who's that guy? Like I don't think a lot of that happens.
it's like D2, where it's like those tweets. I don't know if you get them, Ben. My whole
Yep.
Twitter algorithm is just taken over by high school recruiting, and I don't know why.
Oh,
It's
it gets
like
in the inbox. I share it if it seems decent. I'll tag coaches regionally, if it's helpful. We've done some big some Bear Claw media player spotlights. One of them turned out to be Keone, and he came to the school. I think
cult
a little
hero.
bit of that exposure was a bit of a tipping point for one of the coaches, but I think the decision was already ultimately made, that he was coming on. But like to think we helped in that one. We helped get some exposure for that O lineman that went somewhere else in Texas. So yeah, no, I use your resources, kids. That's the biggest thing. Use your resources. It's all about networking. The coaches will tell you that. Your teachers
Oh
will
yeah,
tell you that. Your guidance counselors will tell you that. It's not this weird, like like nepotistic system. It's just all about like making relationships and making them count. And I know that
yeah.
that doesn't sound that different, but it's all about like you got to show who you are to people, and they got to understand like what your character is and what you bring to a program. You got to do that just like elevator speech in 30 seconds. So that's my advice to kids is like have all of your profiles, have all of your film buttoned up tight, and make it count in the first 30 seconds.
Yeah, 100%. And you could look at it as nepotism, but also if you have a relationship with this coach that a different coach has a relationship with, like they're obviously, if they trust that coach, they're going to go with the guy who that guy recommends over just a rando who's in their DMs with a huddle highlight film. If it's at all comparable, I'd say they're going to go with the guy who they know, like, this is a good kid. This is like, we've seen him do it at like this level, yada yada yada. So it's 100, not 100%. If you're talented enough, it then becomes 100% about relationships.
And then the thing is, for everybody else, especially like high school kids, that this was a great conversation that me and some of the service managers had as just a BS, talking about football, talking about kids getting recruited early in high school. If you want to play football bad enough, there's always a spot for you out there. It's just might not be at the level you're looking. It might not be in the state that you're looking. There's always somewhere out there. NAIA, D3, JUCO, like there's always a spot out there. It's how bad do you want to play it?
No, I think that's a perfect thing to end on because you're 100% right. But as always, if you like what we're doing, please, please, please like, comment, subscribe, review. Tell your mom to like, comment, subscribe, review. And if you don't like what we're doing, the Bear Claw Media Complaints Department is always open. Ben's got his dukes up already. Have a good one.